somewhere down the road, somebody gave me a shot, gave me an opportunity, and I feel like it's my responsibility to do the same, and if I can have a positive impact on them, I think it's worthwhile. But um, I think while um, some of the things young people face right now are challenging or different. It's an evolving world, technology, the societal norms, all this different stuff. It's a weird time, but I also think, and I try to remind people too, that I believe we live in the greatest country on earth. We have more opportunities than anybody else, and that we still control our own destiny. And there's so much you can accomplish and do if you're willing to put in the work, if you're willing to put your head down and not care who gets credit, to do the hard stuff, to do the nasty jobs, to do what it takes.
Are you an entrepreneur building wealth while designing freedom? Welcome to Hunt for Success, the podcast where business, lifestyle, and the pursuit of a life well lived come together. Each week, Dr. Sam McGough sits down with founders, operators, and high performers to explore the principles, discipline, and decisions that create real success in business and in life. From the boardroom to the backcountry, these are conversations about building wealth, earning freedom, and designing a life worth hunting for.
Welcome, everybody, to the Hunt for Success. Today, we have Tucker Green, a business owner, public servant, and an advocate for the trades. He's someone who understands that the skills you build in the field don't necessarily stay in the field. They show up in every room that you walk into. Tucker, welcome to the Hunt for Success.
Thanks, Sam. Excited to be on with you today.
Well, we're excited to have you here. I think we can learn a lot from you, and also hopefully, maybe talk a lot of hunting. So I was, getting into my research about you and learned a few things that we didn't talk about the other day. But if you don't mind, can you just start at the beginning? How did you get started in your career? How did you find your way?
Yeah, absolutely. Be glad to kind of dive into that. As my parents will tell you, I was kind of born an old soul, and just from the time I was little, didn't meet a stranger. Very, very social, very mature, I guess, for my age, and I had an interest in politics. And I don't know why. I don't come from a political family. I guess I come from a civically minded family. They vote, try to give back. They operate a small business and have since 1971. And, they were always involved in their local chamber of commerce, sponsoring ball teams, things like that. Their advocacy organization, which I now manage and am a part of it, and the advocacy team there. So it was kind of a full circle moment, but certainly nothing political. And I was just drawn to that, drawn to government and how civics and things work, locally, state, and federally. Long story short, as I worked through school, I ended up kind of being involved in a lot of different organizations, helping with some campaigns, getting involved in some government jobs, even in high school. Ended up going to the University of Georgia. I was the first in my family to go to school, and being a Georgia boy, I wanted to go cheer on the dogs and go to Athens, and that's what I did. And while I was there, I ended up being talked to by some local folks back home in my home community in Pickens County, Georgia. And a school board seat race was coming up, and they said, "Why don't you run for school board?" And I ended up running and won that election. And I was 21 years old at the time, and I became the youngest school board member in the state. And I think that election brought some attention to me from people who I knew, but maybe had kind of forgotten over the years or hadn't been as close over the years. And there was a guy who had been a lobbyist, had been a former state representative in Georgia, and been very involved in the political sphere. And he contacted me because he saw that what I was doing, and basically hired me. I went to work for him when I graduated college at Georgia, and ended up, after a short stint with him, he decided to retire, and I ended up going out on my own and was able to get a little bit of his book of business, and then I have built on my own. And we've kind of tried to stay true to what I feel I know best, and the people I'm around, which is small businesses, blue collar folks, a lot of folks in the construction trades, and we've been able to work very closely and represent them, and we feel like we've made a good strong impact and love the work we do, and it's been an exciting ride. I wouldn't say I planned any of it out necessarily. It just kind of things fell into place. A door would open. I'd have enough sense to walk through it, and we've been blessed because of it. So.
That's interesting. You're making my job too easy. I had all these questions about
Oh,
that.
I'm sorry.
Oh, that's
I
okay.
talked,
That's
I
okay.
talked too much right out of the gate. There we
Man, I
go.
love it. Hey, look, I just got to sit back and let you talk. I love it. So, tell me a little bit more about Tucker and Green and Associates. And so you're saying that so I know that's one side of but that's your business, and then the lobbying is kind of another thing. And then I'm going to talk about the CAG here in a minute. Is that how you call it the CAG? Is that how you say
Yeah,
that?
CAG. Yeah,
Okay.
that's how we pronounce the acronym. Yeah, so you can kind of think, I guess, my company is the overarching company, I guess, that a lot of these organizations, including CAG, contract with. Um, my company, Tucker Green Associates, is a governmental affairs firm, as well as we're kind of unique. There's a lot of folks that are in the government affairs realm, but they don't really do association management, and really, so we're kind of unique in that we do that. We do full scale association management for our clients, event planning, things of that nature, in addition to governmental affairs, and really we do that because of the need of our clients. So our my main client being CAG, the Condition Air Association of Georgia, that was, they were my first client, and my biggest client. That was what they needed. They needed someone to manage their entire organization. The behind the scenes, of course, we have a board of directors that provides leadership in that capacity, but they rely on our company to manage the organization on a day to day basis, and we've done that for some other clients as well. So that's kind of how we ended up. Not just in the government affairs world, but doing all kind of aspects of that.
Well, you were named the top 5 rising star lobbyist in Georgia. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's something that I don't know anybody who's ever been named something like that. Is that something you're pretty proud of? And is there a story behind that?
Yeah, I was proud of that, and I was actually able to be named in that for a couple of years, and so was very proud of that, and that list is put together by a publication here in the state that's very involved in the business and political realm, and it did mean a lot, because those basically how they compile the list is they take nominations, and then the people in our world, the lobbying world and political world, vote on those in kind of ranking. And so to be named that kind of by your peers, by your colleagues, people that know the work you do, certainly meant a lot
Yeah.
to us.
Is there any wins that you had in the Capitol that really stick with you, that you think that kind of gives you the kind of the steam to keep going?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have had a lot of success, and we're proud of that. And I think a big part of that, not necessarily is me, but I give a lot of credit to the people we represent. We represent very good, hardworking people that are respected business people, and have good reputations and are vital industries across our state. And when you're advocating for people like that, it makes your job a little easier. So I give them a lot of credit. But we have, I learned early on that often in governmental affairs, to use a sports analogy, you're often playing defense more than offense. And a lot of times the things we don't always get credit for or recognized for is bad policy that we're able to stop, and to prevent from becoming law. And that's a big part of our job. I also think it's a lot easier to do that. It's a lot easier to kill a bill than it is to get a bill signed into law. In the Georgia legislative session, there might be 2,000, 2,500 bills introduced in a session. maybe 250 or 300 of them make it to the governor's desk. So it's a pretty tedious process by design, as it should be, to make legislation to pass a bill into law. And we've been able to do that too. And of course that's a big boost because there's a lot of work, a lot of behind the scenes, a lot of, in the bills legislation we've passed, often we were laying the groundwork in the months leading up to session, or years in some instances, literally years leading up to session. So we're often the work seen on the surface. There was a lot more that went into that, and so certainly it's a great feeling when you put that much time and energy and purpose into something and you're able to get it across the finish line. We've been able to do that in a few instances. We've been very fortunate to pass at least 1 to 2 pieces of legislation every year, really, for the last 4 or 5 sessions, which has been great. And of course, we have some certain stories around certain ones, but we feel obviously all of them were good policy, and that our members and clients are better off because of it. So,
is there any specific, story about a member or a piece of legislation you got passed that kind of helps your impact, or really impacted you?
Yeah, so I would say one of my proudest legislative accomplishments, we had worked, in fact, my predecessor was working on this. So this would be one of those examples of years of labors of love, I guess. My mentor and predecessor, he was working on this. I worked on this with him when he hired me. And for many years, we just couldn't get it done. And I worked on it for a couple of years on my own after he retired before I was able to get it done. So it was literally years in the process. We had when I went out on my own, I was able to get it past the House. There was a change in the Senate. So it passed the Senate with changes, had to go back to the House for them to agree on it. They ended up adjourning before that happened. So, I mean, that's getting really, really close, and you still come up short. And then you have to go, start back all over, really, pretty much. And so, what the bill was about was regulatory fees, permit fees that HVAC companies, plumbers, electricians, all these folks in the trades, builders, would have to go pull with local governments. And what we were seeing is that in certain jurisdictions, certain municipalities or counties, they were charging pretty egregious permitting and regulatory fees. They were tacking on thousands of dollars. They were really becoming profit centers. They were making money off of those fees. And Georgia law prohibited that. It was really, those fees were supposed to cover the cost of what it was to regulate, what it cost them to do the inspections, to go out and make sure that everything was up to code and things of that nature. But what we were seeing in some places is that they were really making lots of money off of them. So what we did was we passed a law, and what took so much time for it to be done is the cities and counties opposed us vehemently. They did not like having more restrictions upon how they could determine those fees. We really narrowed down the scope and how the methods they could use to determine those fees. And our argument all along was we have no problem with them, our folks having to pull permits. We have no problem with them having to pay permits and to pay a fair price. But, it's not fair for our guys to quote a job and then they go and pull a permit and they end up getting upside down because they've had to pay some egregious fee that they never should have been charged to start with. And not only will we finally get that passed and signed into law, since that time, we've had some jurisdictions that have fought us on it. And we've had to get attorneys involved, and we have been upheld our law. And in fact, in 2 different cities in this state, we had, after the new law that we passed went into effect, they were still charging in violation of the law. And we served them. We had attorneys serve them, and they had to reverse that and pay reimbursement checks back to our members for charging them hefty fees. So we're very proud of that. It was a lot of work, and when you have a win like that, and then you're also vindicated too, in that when they're kind of having their hands slapped and saying no. You need to follow the law. They're right, and you need to also pay these contractors back for where you charged them improperly. So that's probably one of our proudest accomplishments.
How good does that feel?
It feels good. It feels good for
Sounds
sure.
great. Like, I was like, man, what a feeling. Could you imagine? I was just thinking about that. It's like, God, all the, because, you represent guys from like one guy in a van to a guy
Yep.
with like multi-million dollar, lots of vans, lots of people. And it impacts every one of their paychecks and their employees' paychecks. And so like that, yeah, that would make me feel good. You know,
Yeah, it was definitely a great accomplishment, because again, we felt like, we were advocating for what was right, what was fair. Not only is it good for our members, these businesses and their bottom line, but it's also good for consumers, right? I mean, those fees, domino effect, they're going to get passed down, we just it was a proud accomplishment, and we really felt good when we had those reimbursement checks. It's not every day you get a city to write you a check for saying, yeah, we overcharged you. So
yeah, exactly.
so
Exactly. You want to come to Alabama?
we've had a lot of contractors we work with that do work over there. They said, come help us over here. So
Yeah, we may have to work something out.
right.
How often and how much time do you get to spend with your members and see them and do you get to know them?
Yeah, that's a great question. We work hard to do that. I think it's very important that I'm out and about and talking to our members, seeing our members. One of my favorite things to do is to get out and travel the state and to go by their shops, go by their offices, uh, get a chance just to break bread with them, talk with them.
Well, it's got to be tough because there's a lot of them. You got over
There,
650 members, right?
there's no doubt it's tough. It's not, to your point, it's not like that's something I'm able to do every day, and I can't go see all of them. But we
Right.
try to do that. Try to be strategic about it. We'll take. I make a point different times throughout the year to get in the truck and go around the state and try and hit little certain areas and visit folks. Sometimes existing members. Sometimes we're out recruiting, trying to get new members or certainly anytime a member wants to meet with me, we always try and make that happen. But I think it's important that we never lose sight and lose connection with them, what they're experiencing, what's going on the front lines every day. And so we do try very hard to get out and get to know them. And CAG is really a family, and I'm very fortunate that. We've been around, the organization's been around since 1980, and we have members that have been involved since then. So, I mean, they've been a part of the entire history of this organization. And, I encourage the new members when they come that really a lot of that value is the connection, the network you build, and I encourage them to come to events, to get to know people, to get to know part of this family, and I'm a believer iron sharpens iron, and we can all learn from each other and get better and better at what we do.
Oh, I agree with that. I do the same. I try to get involved with at least, groups that where I know I'm going to have, similar thought processes and similar people to kind of, like I said, sharpen you, as you say.
Yeah.
With your grandfather and family in the trades, and like I was just kind of thinking about that, that win that you had, like, it's probably more special to you because you can empathize with those guys because you grew up that way. That's how it's the guys you're helping was, so that's a pretty cool thought that you were able to make that happen because not everybody gets to give a win like that to their parents or family, so that's incredible.
No doubt, it's personal, and I tell folks that I understand, and I know I have a unique perspective because of my family's business. But I know what it takes to run a business, and it's not always rainbows and butterflies and all the great things that people from the outside looking in think. It's a lot of hard work and a lot of sacrifice, and so no doubt that motivates me in the work we do here.
I'll try not to get too political, but I think that's it. More people with that perspective should be in politics. Too many times, I think people that are in politics have no perspective of what they're, what they're, actually, fighting for, or they never seen it. So, you see guys who's got a liberal arts degree, whose parents were like a lawyer, and then they're on some sort of committee that helps some blue collar or even some other trade or something they don't know anything about. So I think it's really really nice to see that, so.
I agree completely, and no doubt my experience has been that often the most effective legislators we deal with are people who can connect, can relate, that they
Yeah.
themselves or their families were in business, and they understand what it takes to sign the front of a paycheck, not just the back of a paycheck, and
Yeah.
I think that's important perspective.
Yeah, it is definitely. I like that. I'm going to keep that saying about the front and the back of the paycheck.
Yeah,
I'm taking it. Sorry.
that's all
Uh,
right.
so let's get into it. You're a hunter also, and that's like part of the show. Tell me what you like to hunt and when did you get started?
Yeah, I do. I love to hunt. We we kind of same thing. We grew up as a family, always being in the woods, and I'm grateful for that. My I don't have any kids yet, but my goal and plan is when I do to have them in a stand or hunting as much as we can. I think that's just you learn a lot of good lessons being outdoors and being around folks at hunting camp or whatever else it is. I grew up a deer hunter.
Yeah.
My family hunted everything, especially my granddad. He's been all over the world, and but mainly I grew up deer hunting here in the South. I grew up deer hunting in Georgia. We had a hunting lease in Alabama, over in Selma, Alabama, that I went to for
Oh,
years.
wow.
Yeah, it was perfect because the Georgia season ends pretty much usually kind of in December, and Alabama's really getting going. And you had January to go hunt in Alabama, and I can maybe even into February. I can't remember if it spills over into February or not.
It does now. I don't. A few years back, they pushed it into February, so it goes all the way to the 10th. I think the 10th to the 14th of February now. It got a pretty long season. We start in September. I mean,
Yeah,
start in October. I'm sorry. I'm in Tennessee. I hunt Tennessee too. So Tennessee, and so if you hunt all of them, man, you can
right.
you know.
That's you can have a
But
pretty long season, and that's
yeah,
what we would do. We would hunt in Georgia, and then when we
you
get
go.
wrapped up over here, we'd go to Alabama. So,
That's good.
but yeah, we grew up primarily deer hunting, and loved it. And I mentioned to you that my family, my granddad had spent a lot of time out west in
Yeah.
Montana and Iowa and Wyoming, and still does. And about, I don't know, 20 years ago or so, he went in with some friends and got some land and a farm in Iowa, southwest Iowa, and over the years developed that into an outfitting business. And so I've been fortunate to go out there deer hunting quite a bit, and
Yeah.
that's a whole different ball game. You look at those deer and you think it's cattle out in the field. As big as they grow, those corn fed deer. But
Yeah.
um, and then I'll just add on real quick. I also love bird hunting, but I really had not done a lot of bird hunting growing up.
Yeah.
And in fact, really just in the last probably 6, 7 years did I really start bird hunting, quail hunting primarily, and
Yeah.
I love it. I'd go quail hunting every day if I could.
Yeah.
It's bird hunting's a lot of fun, and I hate to say I probably enjoy it more than deer hunting. I really enjoy it. So
I think there's a lot of camaraderie and a lot of like you can hunt with a group and that's real fun. You
it
know.
is. I think you raise a good point. It's very different. Bird hunting. You're kind of with the guys. You're with a group. You're watching the dogs work. A little more action.
Yeah.
Deer hunting for me is a little bit more almost therapeutic. I can
Yeah.
sit
Exactly.
and sit in the stand, turn off, forget the world for a little while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's different. Yeah, but I love bird hunting too. Actually, we're planning a trip maybe next year down to Rio Pedras.
Oh
So
yeah, that'd be nice. Yeah.
yeah, well, you should come with us.
Let me know. Let me know.
I'll let you know the date.
You won't have to twist my arm too hard.
Yeah, I bet. I bet that's a good place. It's a nice place. Um, I was going to give you one piece of advice. You said you hadn't had any kids. You better hunt and fish if you like fishing too. But if you hunt as much as you can because you're going to take a couple years off. You're not going to be able to do it as much, probably.
Right. I think you're exactly right.
So if I could, that's one of those regrets I have. Think about all the time I had before I had a family to go hunting, and I didn't.
Yep.
Sometimes slept in or didn't go. I was like, I would not. I'd take it back. I'd go back and do it.
Yep. Yeah.
You know?
That's good advice. That's good
Yeah.
advice.
So you've hunted and you've hunted out there in Iowa, your dad or your granddad's place.
Yeah, I was a lottery draw system, so I don't go every year, but I'm
Yeah.
about every other year. So we've been
Yeah.
we've been fortunate to go several times. Trying to get my wife out there. We'll see.
Does your
Uh,
wife hunt?
So she never was a hunter. Since we've got married in the last few years, she has shown interest. It's nothing I pushed her into. She kind of
Yeah.
got interest on her own, and she still hasn't killed a deer. She went bird hunting with me and killed a couple quail one time.
Yeah.
But we got her shooting clays, doing a little bird hunting, and then she went with me about 6 or 7 times last fall deer hunting, and she liked it. So we'll see.
That's good. That's good. Mine went with me to New Zealand, and she liked it because she didn't really hunt much. She did hunt one day,
Yeah.
but she's not much. She'll go, but she's not much for cold.
Yeah.
It's too cold for her. But
Yeah.
I
I
think that's
get that.
um. So if you got a bucket list or anything that you really want to go do on a hunt?
You know, I do for sure. We would like, I'd like to kill. I really haven't had a chance to kill anything besides whitetail deer or
Yeah.
bird, things that nature. I'd love to kill an elk. That'd be pretty close up there. Elk, a moose, maybe a bear.
Yeah.
Several, mainly North American, I'd say.
Yeah.
I would be open to going and traveling the world. I got some friends, some lobbying friends actually. They go every year to Europe and hunt stag and things like that. And
Yeah.
and I've never done that. I'd like to. I'd probably like to do that, experience that. But
It's different but fun, and it's much more. It's yeah. I think it's so far for me. It's been easier, but you keep hanging out with me, it'll happen because I've done Western, and then I'm in Canada this year, moose hunting and bear hunting, and so I can at least point you in the right direction of some of these places. But your
yeah,
friends do
that'd
the
be
same thing.
that'd be great. That'd be great. I
Yeah.
got a friend. I got a friend too that wants us to go do the Grand Slam with the turkey. So we'll see. That I guess that might would be on the bucket list too. So
Yeah, that's a good one. I've got some friends. I've never. I've see got three of them, but I need to go. I need a couple more. But yeah, I've done. That's a fun. Turkey hunting is always for me is fun. And if
oh
you
yeah,
ever, but that's why you'll like the elk hunting because it's like turkey hunting but with a bigger animal. So
right.
yeah, it's right up there for me. I've done that, and I said I've done some overseas stuff, and um, man, getting close to an elk when they're bugling or fighting or something like that is it's different, and your hairs in the back of your neck stand up. It's pretty cool.
I was gonna say I
Uh,
bet it'd be an adrenaline rush for sure.
it really is. It really is. So let's talk about it. I always like because I'm a gear fanatic, and I always ask people this: is what are you shooting? What gear do you like? Things like that.
That's a good question. I have always been kind of a 260, 270, 280 guy, somewhere in that realm. Usually here lately I'm shooting a 280. My wife, I had her hunting with a 260 last fall. And
That's different
yeah. I don't,
for back east. It's different.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I don't know why. That was the rifles I grew up hunting with when I was a teenager and stuff, and I've just kind of stuck with it. I like them, and I've just kind of stuck with it. Now in Iowa, obviously, we're not hunting with those. We're slug shotguns out in Iowa. No rifles out there, no long rifles. And that's a different experience in itself.
Yeah.
That I had to get adjusted to, and the distance and things of that nature. But yeah, that's usually what I'm hunting with.
With
Um,
your bird hunting, you an automatic guy or an over and under guy? What do you do?
I'm an over under guy. Yeah,
Yeah.
I like the over under. That's usually what I'm shooting with. I got a 20 gauge over under. I like a lot. I'm usually, depending on the bird, I'm either usually a 20 or a 12 guy.
Yeah.
And
That's
I prefer an over under. So
Oh man, it depends. Now, if I'm duck hunting, I want a automatic, but I like an over.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. If you done much waterfowl,
I have not duck hunted. I
well,
haven't
let's,
been.
let's, let's go ahead and dump some money, into trash. You'll just,
Yeah,
or do something. But man, that can get, but it gets, it's fun, but it also can get, yeah, it can get out of hand pretty quick. But same thing with bird hunting, because shotguns, man, I can tell you probably like that because they get more expensive every year, and I kind of seem like I like them more every time I see a new one. So,
Right.
um, but cool, man. So, is there anything that you always take with you? Is there a piece of gear or a piece of something you always take when you go in the field?
That's a good question. I have, if, of course, if it's winter, I have a lucky toboggan, I like to think. So I have one toboggan, which is now looking kind of dingy and nasty, but
Yeah,
it's my toboggan, and I always take it. And
yeah,
then I wear the same. It's a bird vest that's got blood stains on it and everything else, but I love it. It was given to me by a good family friend. Orange vest that I always wear bird hunting, and I've started because it's so big and I can snap it. I can fit it over my winter deer hunting gear, and so now it's my permanent vest. I wear it. I wear it bird hunting. I wear it deer hunting. No matter what I'm doing, it's just kind of become the vest that I use. So
I feel like every hunter is a little bit superstitious.
I agree with that. I agree with that for
You
sure.
know, yeah, I used to when I was same thing with hunting, or I'm sorry, we were fishing, and we I would always eat Vienna sausages.
Yeah,
On the boat. And if I didn't dump the water, and if I forgot and didn't dump the water, I felt like I wasn't going to catch a fish. So you get, but
that's funny. Well, I kind of have. I don't do it always. I always do it in Iowa. If we're in Iowa, we'll always pack the backpack with snacks and drinks and stuff before we go out. And I always pack um, a little bottle of Coke and a honey bun. That's my go-to. And so I guess that's kind of my routine on that. I don't like to do anything besides honey bun and Coke. So the don't publish that in Health Magazine. But
nothing here is going to be healthy, public. So, you mentioned a few things when you're talking about lobbying and and business, the way you do things. And it seems like there's a lot of correlation between some of the you're talking about how long that you fought for that signature win. And I was thinking about, like, I bet that a lot of that stuff kind of correlates with like the way you grew up and hunting and fishing and stuff like that. You can you found that there's some correlation between like the patience and the waiting and the work that goes into your cases, that you do the same thing in your outdoor life.
yeah, that's a great question. I've never really thought of it through that quite like that, but I think you're exactly right. I mean, it's. I'm not naturally a very patient person. I'm the kind of person who often wants to get results done. I don't like to waste time,
Yeah,
but you do have to adjust. I mean, you have to kind of accept reality, and I think that is probably something that you develop as you put it, in the outdoors. I mean, it's hunting, fishing, whatever it might be. I mean, it's not instant. It's not
yeah,
you may go days and or weeks and not see anything, or you may have one particular deer you're chasing and may chase them all season or whatever it is. And I think you raise a good point that certainly that has spillover into professional life too.
yeah,
And I think part of my raising too, which obviously hunting and outdoors was a big part of that. But we were always taught the value of hard work, and that if anything's worth doing, it's worth doing right. And that's what we've always tried to do, and I try to keep that attitude. Even when we have setbacks or delays, keep your head down. If it's important enough, if you think it's the right thing to do, keep working at it. Keep working at it till you get there. So
yeah. I think that, and like I said, for this, I interview a lot of entrepreneurs and business people like that are always, so they like hunting and fishing, but I see this and hear this on a regular basis. It's just that persistence and perseverance to keep going. And hunting and fishing, maybe because that's what I'm trying to do with my boys and my girls, is trying to teach them that they don't always win every time. I
yeah,
think it's important for people to understand that, winning is, losing is part of the game, all in life and everything. And winning is not always, like, you don't always kill something, you always catch something. We were fishing Friday, and for the first hour or two, we didn't catch anything. And
yeah,
keep, I had to keep, telling my 9-year-old that, like, you don't always catch stuff. Now we ended the trip with a bang. We caught a bunch of fish, but that
That's
first
right.
couple hours were slow, so we had to stay in the game, you
That's
know.
it. That's exactly right. I remember something that stuck with me along the same lines. I remember playing sports growing up, and there's years you'd have a bad team or not like a coach or whatever. And I remember that was the thing, mom and dad always said is you ain't got to play next year if you don't want to, but when you signed up, you're gonna finish. You're gonna finish the season. You're gonna finish the year, whether you like it or not. And I think in our society, there's a little bit too much of that now. Too much of the opposite of
Yeah, I agree.
if you're uncomfortable or you don't like something, you can just quit. You don't have to do it, and that's not real life. I mean, there's
Yeah,
there's times when you're going to be uncomfortable. There's times when you know you got to lose. There's times when you got to do things you don't want to do. But I think it all makes us stronger and better in the long run for it.
yeah. I think getting used to being uncomfortable is really a trait that you have to develop to be not like say like be a hyper successful person, but just to be have a successful life. And I think you learn that through sports. You learn it through hunting and fishing. I think those are it starts there, carry them over. I mean, like hunting can be very humbling, and I imagine your job too can be very humbling. Like you can put all the time and effort in and still lose. And that doesn't mean you lose like like you lose the battle, not the whole war. You know?
Right.
So
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, and often this line of work is you can lose too of no fault of your own. I mean, just the nature
yeah,
of politics. And I remember the first time that happened to me. And you talk about a tough pill to swallow. But I mean, what are you going to do? Throw up your hands and quit, or you can just take your punches and keep
yeah,
keep going. So.
exactly, exactly. Can you tell me or remember? I bet you can a loss that you had that you just it was it was hard.
Yeah, it would be that legislation that I did eventually get passed. When I talked about how we passed the House, and then the Senate made some changes. It passed there, went back. We didn't get an agree in time. The clock was running late, and that would have been one of those times, kind of no fault of the work we were doing. The sponsor of our bill had got sideways with leadership on some other stuff unrelated to our bill. He had not done what he was supposed to do, or they didn't not shouldn't say what he was supposed to do, not what they wanted him to do on something else, and so he got penalized for it. He got kind of put in the penalty box. They said, well, anything to do with him is not going to get called up for a vote, and that's what happened. And we became, um, you know, a kind of victim of that. But and that was tough. I mean, because that was early in my career. We'd put so much work, and I think I had a lot of pride in it too, because not only the connection to my family and the businesses we represent, I knew the impact it was having on them. But also, it was, I guess, my first piece of legislation out on my own after I'd left my mentor. And, I just felt like, I felt like in that moment I had let everybody down. I thought I could accomplish that, something he wasn't able to get finished. And you know, so it was a tough loss, but, and again, frustrating because it's like, what do you do? And there was nothing I could do, but we came back and didn't give up, and we got it done. So it made the loss was hard, but the victory, I guess, became even sweeter. So
Yeah, it's just like missing a deer, right?
yeah, that's right.
You've been there all morning, you froze your toes off, and then there you missed a shot.
Yep.
First time I killed an elk, I've killed two. But the first time I killed, I'd hunted 3 years, and the first 2 years I didn't see an elk.
Wow.
And so I was like, when people tell me the stories of loss, things like that, and you keep going, I remember that one because I don't know if I was ever prouder the minute I, killed the first elk, because it was just, it's funny. A buddy of mine saw a picture of me and he said, I've never seen you smile like that. Like, he's normally,
Yeah.
but that's the thing is that, there's something good about having some of those losses, because when you finally do win, it's so much sweeter, like you said.
That's right.
Very cool. Well, man, I have really, really enjoyed talking with you, and I think that we've learned a lot. For someone and maybe a young person that's trying to figure out their way in life and maybe thinking about, politics, law, or something like that, what advice would you give?
Well, and I've enjoyed the conversation too, Sam. This has been a lot of fun. I could sit around and talk,
Well, we can do this
talk,
for days.
talk. I was going to say for days. Um, it's something I've tried to do the last couple of years. I've took a couple of young people, college age people, uh,
Mhm.
under my wing of sorts. Intern, try to give them opportunities. I think it's important because it's been frustrating at times. I've had some success and not success with it, and I've had some people around the capital say, "Why do you spend time doing that?" And I'm like, "Well, somewhere down the road, somebody gave me a shot, gave me an opportunity, and I feel like it's my responsibility to do the same, and if I can have a positive impact on them, I think it's worthwhile. But um, I think while um, some of the things young people face right now are challenging or different. It's an evolving world, technology, the societal norms, all this different stuff. It's a weird time, but I also think, and I try to remind people too, that I believe we live in the greatest country on earth. We have more opportunities than anybody else, and that we still control our own destiny. And there's so much you can accomplish and do if you're willing to put in the work, if you're willing to put your head down and not care who gets credit, to do the hard stuff, to do the nasty jobs, to do what it takes. And if you let your work speak for itself, I think success will come. I also try to tell people too, and it was something that was told to me, and that you need to honor your name. The name you have and the reputation you have. Make sure you carry for your word. You stand by your word. Mean what you say. Do what you mean. And I'm a big believer in that. And I think that's the biggest thing. Rather than to me, that's the most important traits and values in somebody is honesty, integrity, hard work, work ethic. Everything else I think will fall into place. And that would be my biggest message to young people. I think often they feel all this stress and pressure, and then I got to have this job, I got to have this internship, I got to go to this college, I got to have this GPA. I don't want to say all that doesn't matter, but at the end of the day, I think it's small things. I think the big things are if you're willing again to do the hard things, to do the tough things, to keep a positive attitude, and to work hard and keep a good name. And if you do those things, you're going to find success in life.
Yeah, I agree. Plus, if you do those things, you're such a minority that you're going to have success because there's not going to be enough of you.
That's right. That's exactly right.
In today's world.
Yeah, lot of opportunity out there. I think
There's a
growing
lot of
up today.
opportunity for someone who's just willing to work hard.
That's right.
So where can people find and learn more about you and the CAG? Because I'd like to make sure we shout that out.
Yeah, we're on social media. Personally, I'm on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter. CAG's on LinkedIn and Instagram and Facebook. I have a website. We both have a website. My personal business, TuckerGreen&Associates.com, and then CAG's at CAG.org. CAG is CAAG for people listening out there too. But really good organizations helping really good people, hardworking folks out there, and be interested if we could ever do anything to help you, or if people want to learn more, we'd be glad to connect.
Awesome. Well, great, Tucker. It was very nice meeting you and nice talking to you. That's the Hunt for Success signing off this week. Talk to you next time.
You've been listening to The Hunt for Success with Dr. Sam McGough. If this episode brought value to you, make sure you follow and subscribe so you never miss a conversation with the entrepreneurs and high performers building success on their own terms. For more episodes, resources, and insights on building wealth and designing freedom, visit thehuntforsuccess.com. Until next time, keep building, keep pursuing, and keep hunting for the life you want.